Hi, I'm Jacob from Jacob's Book Square. If you guys never been here before, I do book content over here, plus writing and other stuff. I don't ever do intros like that, but that's who I am. Hi, nice to meet you. I also have a whole playlist talking about the Shadowhunters specifically. I think it's all the way up until we get to the anthologies that they're paired in like triple reuse. So it's like book 1, book 2, book 3, and then book 1, book 2, book 3, and then book 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6, and then I think we go off into individual reviews. So we have individual fan chronicles and stuff. I'll link it down below. I have a whole bunch of videos talking about these books. And lastly, we are finally reaching the end. It makes me very sad inside to say that we're reaching the end, but we are. I am filming my last vlog until there's new Shadowhunter content, and it makes me very sad inside. I just bought a pendant, the angelic pendant, this rainbow. I cannot wait to wear it every day of my life. Oh my god, I'm becoming obsessed. But we're reading Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is book 2 in the last hours thing. I bought it on a whim, not gonna lie to you. And I was kind of hoping that it'd like really pretty inside and stuff, but it's not. It's actually pretty basic. It's blue, so I guess that's changing. But like, I don't know, maybe the third book will have something cool in it. This one flops out at like 650 pages. Not bad for us. Well, we're listening to it as an audiobook. The narrator is the same as Chain of Gold. And Chain of Gold, I ended up giving like 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping to. I was more annoyed by timeline stuff, so I'm really hoping that I won't care. Then I just realized we're just doing it and we're just moving on. So hopefully I really like it. And I can officially start recommending the series to you guys, because as of right now, I could care less. There's certain love interests and storylines that are those like ships that I'm really looking forward to experiencing while reading this. But other than that, I don't know. I've also been putting shit off for like 2 months now. When did I read Chain? I have a bullet journal that I've been working in for quite some time now, dedicated to basically life in general, and I have a reading log, so I can tell you when I read Chain of Gold. I read in April. It's June now, so I pushed it off for a little bit, and I read 3 books of Shadowhunters, but I really want to finish this so I can start it all over. I know it's really crazy to sound like, but I really want to read them individually in timeline. I'm going to talk about when I get done reading this book. So ultimately, if I don't love this book, I'm very, very excited to reread it in the coming months, because I'll probably read this one twice, but I'm very, very excited about it. Either way, this is the sequel to Chain of Gold. Chain of Gold follows the kids from Jem and Tessa's, and actually it's Tessa and Will. Jem is still a monk at the moment, or he's part of Zachariah. He's not a monk. You understand what I mean, though. And so it's Tessa. It's also the Carstairs, and Emma Carstairs is the main character. We also have Lucy Herondale, and James Herondale, and Cordelia. And yeah, we also have, I'm pretty sure the last one ended with confronting James's like great-grandfather in this like cave, because he could walk through shadows and stuff. I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm very, very excited. If you guys do not know, I barely edit these videos. I tend to edit out long pauses. If I take them, that's about it. So I hope you don't mind that. I just like having all this experience, so I go back and reread them. I can truly reread my experience and stuff. I cannot wait, but it's a long way to go, since I'm reading them in timeline order, not publication order. Because I read these in publication order. It's a different video. Anyway, for Chain of Iron, I'm very, very excited. Oh my god, am I excited. Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things, so I do hear this is better, and I tend to like the sequel better than I like the first book, and so I'm really happy. I'm really excited to reread these to really enjoy the original one as well. Alright, there we go. I will talk to you guys soon. Hello. Welcome back to another 5-star video. Hi. I'm coming in here to start the vlogging portion of this. It's not spoilers yet, so if you're still around, hi, how you doing? Spoilers will start in the next clip. Probably in the same shirt, probably in the same location, just tomorrow. And that's because I'm starting Chain of Iron tomorrow. I just want to come in here and just do like an opening, what I'm expecting that's going to happen in the book, and why I've been pushing it off since April when I read the last one. This came out in March. I've had it since March, and I waited a long time to read Chain of Gold. But when I read Chain of Gold, I was really into reading. Like, I was really excited to start it. And Chain of Gold ended up having a lot of timeline errors and stuff that I believe are timeline errors I'm hoping are fixed. I'm sure they will be. I have a lot of confidence in Cassie Clare, but I'm also a little nervous. And so it made me taking a lot of appreciation and like greatness from that book. The first one deals with a lot of plagues and new demons and also walking through shadow worlds and stuff, which was very cool. I also like all the cast of the characters mostly. I'm not a huge fan of James and Cordelia like everybody else is, but I'm also very curious to see where their story goes. I'm much more like a Matthew Fairchild kind of person, but that's just me. And so we are here, and yeah, there's a big cast of characters. This book is super freaking thick, and I'm very, very excited. My personal things, I don't believe Cordelia and James will stay together throughout the whole book. I also don't believe this book is going to correspond over a very long course of time. I also probably going to say it's probably not until like right here that we have an action sequence. Yeah. For other characters, I don't, like, I kind of remember where they end up, but I also don't. This has been an excellent book to reread Chain of, like, Iron for, Chain of Gold for, which I could because I own it, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to go into it. I watched a few book talks since being about to start this for it, but I'm not going to reread any of Shadowhunters based because of future things I'm doing. But yeah. Oh, also, I hope we did in the intro, but there's a lot of Shadowhunter content. If you want to see me read Chain of Gold, you can. It's linked down below. Cool. These also videos are very sparsely edited. Normally the non-spoiler part is pretty much edited pretty good because most people will click on it to watch that. So yeah, if you're here for my spoilerly thoughts, you're kind of here for my whole thoughts, and I tend to keep them all in. It's just the truth. I also will be reading this at work because I listen to them as audiobooks, and so I'm assuming we're going to get pretty far. I don't think we'll finish it, but I do have a feeling we're probably going to get maybe like somewhere over here. Seems to be the fact. And so I'll be, basically tomorrow's clip will be like 30 minutes long. Oh my god. Okay, I don't want spoilers, but that's so pretty. You love it? And yeah, so I'm very excited to read this, to watch Emma's hour-long vlog, but I'm also very excited to read this so I can start rereading the Shadowhunters. So it's like the first thing I'm doing. I'm starting it in July. I'm very excited. I might even start this month. Who knows? I'm also kind of nervous about it because I'm going to start reviewing the shorts in order. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'll tell you guys tomorrow. Hello and welcome to the first official spoiler section for Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I am 292 pages in. It's right before chapter 13 of the book, and I really do like it. This one, the opening of the book is Cordelia and James's wedding. The idea is that in a year time they will get divorced. He is starting to really like her, though. They've had some sensual scenes. Also, one of the things that kind of annoyed me was there's a section of the book where they're getting married, and then they go home to their own house, and she's getting undressed from her wedding dress, and basically that's her wedding dress, by the way, and I'm pretty sure it's gold. It makes sense. I still don't know what the bugs are. I'm not figured that out yet, but so she gets home, and she's going home to her wedding dress, and he takes off her, but she's not really sure what they're supposed to do, like, in the bed, even though they've had some pretty, like, hot makeout sessions that would make it seem like that she should know, so I found that to be a little weird, but it's a little nitpicky thing, you know. I think a really interesting thing is that Cortana seems to be betraying Cordelia. She doesn't want to use her. Their bond is not working, and I'm not really sure why yet. I think it maybe is because she's lying and that type of thing. I'm not really sure. I'm curious to see how that explains. There's also a murder mystery going on in this book. That's the main thing. The last book was a poisoning demon. This is Shadowhunters are dying. I think there's 4 dead by this point, and they know that it's a dude because of a ghost, but they're not really sure who or why, and so yeah. So that's one of the things that they're trying to figure out. It's a big plot point. James can see it as they happen as nightmares. So that is very interesting. And we do know from the like the prologue, that they are after Cordelia and James. We don't know why. Obviously that intention hasn't been revealed to us yet. James can also go back into the shadow world, even though he can't see his grandpa. Is that what it is? Great grandpa. And yeah, so that's also interesting. And honestly, this book has really just taken place with James and Cordelia. I feel like all the other side characters haven't really had anything to do. Luce is just really writing her novel, which is really cool, but that seems to be taking up all of her time. And then we're getting flashbacks to Grace when she was younger with her parents. Because Grace, there's still the story of her brother who died. I can't think of his name. Oh my god, what is his name? Oh, who Lucy is in love with, and so there still is that storyline going on between the ghost and Grace is trying to do necromancy to bring her back. I.e., I know how this experience is going to go probably. No reason why, if you've never read them, I don't want to spoil any books for you in the later series, depending on how you read these. But yeah, I really like it though. I like the characters, I like the plot, I like the moments, and nothing has really stood out to me than like I gotta tell you about it yet. I mean, the murders are kind of graphic, which is nice. The book is very adult, which I've also enjoyed. I don't think the historical setting is that off-putting to me this time around, which is weird, even though I really, really liked it in um, Clockwork Angel. I loved it. Clockwork Angel is still one of my favorite Classy Claire books to date. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure why the first book did not vibe with me, but this book truly is. It's so much better. I like the characters. I would say the most biggest complaint I just talked about in my weekly vlog is the fact that we're this far into it and there hasn't been like there's been like one or two action sequences, and so I'm kind of ready for it to pick up at the pace a little because the mundane life is kind of boring. It's kind of reminding me of Little Women with demons, and I guess in regard for writing, that's a really good respect, but in regard for story, I gave enough Little Women because I found it to be too mundane, and this seems to be a little too mundane. So I'm happy that the murders and stuff are picking up, because that should mean the story picks up. Plus, we're about halfway through it. I'm planning on finishing it this weekend while I'm home due to some other things I have planned for going forward, like this week going forward. And so I should be listening to it as the audiobook throughout the whole weekend. So I will update you accordingly on that as well as I get more and more further into it. So those updates will be more frequent, and also you won't have to worry about me skipping things. Also, if there's anything specific in the first half that you wanted me to talk about, but I didn't mention, because I didn't mention a lot of things, normally these clips are much longer, let me know in the comments down below, and I would love to talk with you in the comments about it. As I'm sure I really liked it, I just can't remember. Like, they had several dances that they went to. James is breaking a lot of the husband laws, which is really fascinating and adorable. They had, the reading scene I really liked as well. And like I said, I mean, the stuff with Armari, is that what her name is? You know what I'm talking about, the lesbian. And the abuse stuff with that, I'm not really liking. The stuff with Charles, I'm not really liking either. But they're all things that I'm curious to see how they're going to be explored. Because Grace and Charles, I just really don't want that wedding to happen. So I'm really hoping that maybe it will get called off. I know Charles can't be him openly self. Magnus also makes a very brief appearance, and I really, really do like it. Obviously, Tessa and Will are phenomenal, and they do bring a lot of light to the story. I'm really curious to see, because I know going forward, because we meet James later on in the timeline, and he's a drunk. He's shooting guns, and he's a drunk. And so I'm curious to see how he gets there. That's, I think, in the Bane Chronicles. That makes sense. Yeah, I want to say it's in the Bane Chronicles is when we first meet James Herondale, and I'm curious to see, how we come there. Matthew is always fascinating to me. He is turning into his father, which is really sad. I had another thought. Oh, guns. They're weaponizing guns, which ultimately don't work out because they're never talked about in the future books. So I'm assuming this is a one-off thing. They do these every once in a while, unless it's really important to the Dark's powers. Obviously, in Clear Darkness, there is uses of guns for whatever reason. I'm not going to spoil it here, but they do pop up, but they're not for the purpose that they're talking about here. They're weaponizing them to kill not Shadowhunters, demons and things. So you don't have to use your Seraph blades and stuff like that. And James seems to be the one really attacking to it, and also it seems to really like James, and so I'm assuming that's going to be his signature weapon. So yeah, that right now is what I think of Chain of Iron. Obviously, if I would have talked to you yesterday, I was really tired, I would have probably had a lot more thoughts. Plus, the images inside the book, as I'm sure somebody's curious, are character portraits. So, like Thomas Whitewood and things. So it's character portraits and stuff, which I find to be really cool. Yeah, I'll let you know as the book goes on. I cannot wait to finish it so I can restart the series. It sounds so wrong, but I'm really excited to go back into the world and to be, you know, surrounded by the world until March of next year. And also, I have a lot of other books I really want to read, and this book is very long, so, and takes up some time. That's all. Alright, I'll see you guys soon. Hello guys, I wanted to come in here and wrap up this vlog for Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is the last book that I have to read before I can start my rereads, which I'll talk about in the next video going forward for Shadowhunters. I have a lot of fun videos going forward as well, but I wanted to jump into basically what I'm doing going forward. This is Matt. Chain of Iron, we have a lot to talk about. I don't know the last time I updated you. I think I was maybe 400 or maybe a little less than that. I don't know if we hit part 2 or not. So I just wanted to come in here and break some stuff down. It's going to be a little bit more vaguer than normal, and that's just because I don't really remember everything that happens in this book. I remember all the bigger plot points and some of the smaller moments and stuff. I want to talk about my favorite moments, and then we'll jump into some of the bigger plot moments, some of the more shocking plot moments. I also did give this a 5 stars, and I don't want that to not badly reflect the way I'm about to talk about it. I just don't really think I enjoy these books as much as I enjoyed The Dark Artifice. I think I much preferred those over this, which is very ironic. I'm just gonna put that out there because The Dark Artifice, in general, I don't think I enjoyed as much as I think I do. I think I think my reread's gonna be phenomenal. I cannot wait for it. It's gonna be a hot minute though. It's the last books in the timeline, but for these ones, I don't know. And that's also very weird because Clockwork Prince, there she is. Oh my god, I knew I owed it. Clockwork Angel is like one of my favorite Cassandra Clare books of all time. I'm curious to see in this next reread session if it will still hold up. Like, is it as good as Clear and Darkness? Who knows? Who truly knows? Is it as good as the Elder Curses? I don't know. So speaking of Elder Curses, though, there is some slight spoilers here for that. I'll pop it up on the screen when I talk about them, specifically for book 2. So if you've not read it yet, I don't want to spoil you for it. So just wanted to give you a heads up because there's some correlations that I don't know if I would have picked up on if I didn't just read them, but I did just read them. Okay, so the last half, we're still following the murders. I don't know if I talked about how the fact that for a second there, I was thinking that maybe it was James killing people. It was not. That's not who it turns out to be, which we'll talk about here in a second. But James and Cordelia's relationship, I loved. Oh my god. And I've known that he really loves Cordelia for a long time now. I think it was in a novella that I learned that he was like super duper in love. And this is before he met Grace, or around the same time he met Grace, that we're starting to really fall in, that we really started to learn about his love for Cordelia. And so seeing it fully fledged out here is so phenomenal. And so that's what I'm going to start with first, is Cordelia and James. The book ends on a very sad note with Cordelia running off to Paris with Matthew, but overall, I would say their relationship is very strong. There's a few sensual scenes that I think are beautifully written and really lovely done, but also I just really loved in the final battle with Bidil, I think it's how you pronounce it, I think is what I learned, is when he takes her into the shadow world and he shows her and he helps her stab him for the second wound. Because if you guys don't know, it's one of the things, I don't know if I talked about or not, Bidil is throughout this whole entire book. And when he meets him again in the shadow world, his grandfather, Tessa's dad, And when he meets him again in the Shadow World, he realizes that the first wound that Cordelia gives him at the end of the last book, it continues to bleed. It's like a mortal wound, and he needs 3. Magnus mentions it at some point as well. And I guess that does confirm that it was actually Magnus at that point in the story, because Magnus has been popping up here a lot, and a lot of them are not Magnus, which is really confusing, and we're going to talk about the confusingness that is the rest of this book, but that's okay. So I really liked that moment. I thought it was very tender and very sweet. I also just absolutely loved how he was able to admit to himself that he's in love with Cordelia, even if he didn't truly be able to admit to her that he was in love with Cordelia. I also loved by the end of the book him running towards her, going to Paris, buying the ticket, being like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go chase after her. I love her. I need to tell her. I need to set things straight. And of course, shit happens, so he can't do that. And it does leave you kind of feeling very sad inside. And I do have a feeling if I would have finished this yesterday and not this morning, I think I would have probably really been heartbroken. But I had some time to deal with my feelings before the initial, like, oh my god, because I read the last chapter this morning. But yeah, I really, really liked the relationship. Now let's jump over to my next relationship. Probably the first ship that I really got into, and I've been shipping them since they went to Paris. Oh my gosh. I don't know if that was in Chain of Gold or if that was a novella. I don't know anymore. I think it was probably in Chain of Gold. It was probably in the beginning of Chain of Gold, right? And that is Thomas and Alistair. Alistair's been a character who's popped up quite a few times, if that is in novella format or even obviously in the books themselves. And I have always really liked him better with Thomas than Matthew. I've never really liked Matthew. Matthew's always rubbed me the wrong way, which is really weird because I think Alistair's supposed to rub me the wrong way, but I've always gotten that way with both of them. I've never liked the relationship. I thought it was extremely toxic, and it was very sad. We'll get to RRA and Luz here in a second. Not Luz. RRA and oh my god, what is her name? Yeah, I think it is Luz. I think I'm right. Luz Hairdo. And nope, that's not right. We'll talk about them. I can't remember her name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But with them, they finally admit that they love each other, but they don't love each other, that they want to be in an active relationship when Thomas gets arrested for a murder that he did not commit. And I never once thought Thomas was the murderer. I thought James was the murderer. Maybe I said the wrong name earlier, but I really did think Thomas was not the murderer. I never got the intention whatsoever. And so when he gets arrested and he gets taken in, Alistair is there, and they have a hot makeout session, and I was like, oh my god. I literally, like, gasped. That was, like, one of those vocal moments of, like, oh my god, what is happening right now? I need this, I need this, I need this. And so I'm just obsessed with it. I'm very happy with it, and overall, that's probably my favorite ship. They don't end up together in the book. Alistair actually ends up going back to Matthew because he doesn't want Thomas to go through the type of pain that he had to go through by breaking up with all his friends and stuff, which I think was very respectable, and I thought it was very kind of Alistair to do that, even though I think a relationship is two-sided, so you should totally hear out Thomas was something to say. But ultimately, they don't end up together at the end of this one, but I really do hope that they're in game overall. Let's move on to some other ships. So let's talk about Matthew. Matthew has been going through a whole bunch of shit. He has a horrible drinking problem, which was evident in the last book. This book, it's just rampant, and I think that is because of Cordelia's dad being back, and so Cordelia being aware of the fact that people can be addicted to things that are such as alcohol and whatever. And so she's noticing a lot more, and that's, I think, equaling a lot more people to notice as well. And when her dad dies, she specifically notices that Matthew's drinking a lot. Now, Matthew was called out, I don't think it was by Cordelia, I think it maybe was James, and saying that he was you're drinking too much, essentially, and it ended up being a really bad conflict for the friendship and the friend group. And they're already under some stress as it is, because Matthew, in general, is in love with Cordelia, and he ends up saying that to her. At the very end of the book, after Grace comes back, she believes that James is telling Grace that he's still in love with her, and that he wants everything to do with her, which is obviously not the truth. And so she ends up running off to Matthew, and Matthew is like, I love you, I know that we cannot be together because, like, she's married and stuff, but you can stay here, stay at my house, I'm going off to Paris. Paris saves me every time. I want to go back to Paris. And I'm getting all these names confused. I need a map. I'm very sorry. Correct me in the comments. I know you guys will. So just, it's fine. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about, pairings. So it's okay. This one I know for a fact. And so, yeah, because it cannot. It has to be Charles. I'm thinking of Charles. I'm thinking of Charles, right? I want to say yes. Either way, back to them. And so he tells her that he loves them there, and then he's going back to Paris, and he asks her right away, do you want to come to Paris with me? After she is like broken down or whatever. And she's like, I have one thing. You cannot drink while we're there. And he's like, deal. As long as you're with me, that's fine. So that was also very emotional, and I like the rawness of this. So let's go over to Grace. Grace has a whole storyline with Luce throughout this whole thing, which we'll talk about with Jesse, which I've mentioned a few different times. Jesse becomes a prominent character later on. That's why we're going to come back to it. But with Luce in particular, not Luce, with Grace in particular, I was warned because I have a strong hatred for Camilla. Like, a very, very strong. Like, oh my god, I've never hated a character more in my life, I don't think. I take that back. There has been others. But it's very strong. And so with Camilla in particular, and so somebody in the comments of that video, I think it was Bane, the Bane Chronicles, if I'm not mistaken, they're like, oh, you just wait till you meet Grace. And I was like, what do you mean? And I already knew that Grace was a problem because it's evident in like other stories that we've heard from the cast of characters. I'm pretty sure this was before we met them. I'm not really sure though. It's been a long time. The timeline's a little messy in my brain for like when the novellas take place, because I read all the novellas back to back, and so it's not in order, timeline order yet. And so, yeah. So Grace ends up, the whole story, there is a B plot line of going back and basically explaining Grace's backstory and how much she is just a, you know, she was basically raised the way she was based on her mother and how horrible her mother was, which I could have told you that. Tatiana was a horrible character when I knew her beforehand, so I'm not shocked. And so she ends up taking her to a warlock, who we ends up learning out who that is, and giving her the power to make anybody fall in love with her. And she ends up abusing this power over and over again, either for her mother's will or for her will, whatever it might be. It's small things, big things, and it's been shown throughout the book. But it would never work on James, and her mom was like, no, you gotta make him fall in love with you, you gotta make him fall in love with you. And I should have started picking up on the pieces when that started like being very repetitive, but I didn't do it. And the bracelet, that is very much a huge thing, even called out in the last book, why don't you have your bracelet on? And then called out again, why don't you have your bracelet on? And so the bracelet itself ends up snapping while during a makeout session, essentially, with Cordelia, breaking the bond because we soon learn that the bracelet is made out of Bedelia, god damn it, I hate names, made out of him, and it does help Grace make James fall in love with her. And so James ends up confronting her in a very raw and very heartfelt way, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I was like, yeah, you do this. She deserves it. But she also doesn't, because I also feel bad for Grace. The first book really villainified her, and this book really justified that villainification, but also it really helped bring us back down into reality. And so I was a really big supporter of Grace, and I was really excited to see where she was going. And so overall, I'm very happy with where they kind of leave her. She is getting sent to, oh my, you know, the big people. And the Shadowhunters, what are they called? Yeah, with the council. You know what I'm talking about. She's getting sent there because her power obviously should be stripped from her because it is so bad. So let's jump over to Jesse, who is obviously Grace's brother. And Jesse's body, we have learned, obviously, that he is kept in a stasis mode, so he's always the age that he died in. We also learned that his mother put demon blood, something out of those lines, in him to keep him the way he is. And so when the runes were actually put upon his body, how he died, she knew that they would never connect and that he would die. So, she's a great mom. And then, we also soon learned that there's this device where you can transfer one rune from one Shadowhunter to another. And the people who keep dying, certain runes that are protection runes or like fighting runes or whatever, are taken from their body, and yet we don't understand why. And I think it was, oh, what is his name? He's the one who was running around, he's like the little scientist. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He learns that this device that he finds can do that. And then Lucy was the one who learned that Jesse's body is covered in these runes. And yet he can't draw runes because obviously he's dead. just stuck, but he's dead. He's like in a middle ground. Like he can't leave because his body is still not decomposing, and so he can't let go of his ghost. And Lucy and Jesse, who I do eventually do learn, I do know their end on like shipwise, so I'm not going to spoil it here. Some people have before. I've seen a few videos talk about it, but I'm not going to spoil it here in case you guys don't know. They end up actually telling each other they love each other, and they have this really cute dance scene out in the snow, which I thought was really beautiful. And they also end up having like a kissing scene, kind of ish. And we also learn in the final battle that Video is taking over his body during the day while he can walk around, which we did not know, and killing people, killing Shadowhunters right before he has to go back into his tomb to sleep during the night to become a ghost. And that is Jesse. We also learn some other stuff. I think I mentioned that Cordelia has sworn her oath to Wayland. Wayland is this great smith. He has made both the swords for Clary and Jace. Yeah. Maybe it was Emma. He's a very big, huge, he's a very big smith, and he built Cortana as well. And so we believe that we see him when she goes to fix Cortana because she's having problems with the sword. Still having problems with the sword, I should be clear here. And she goes to fix Cortana, and she ends up saying, "I will be your fighter," which has never been done before in the Shadowhunters. So this is brand new, and ends up being Lilith because you can't kill a bitch. I mean, technically, this is way before she ends up actually supposed to die in a future series. I'm not going to tell you what, because I just spoiled it for you, unless you're reading these. I don't think I would recommend reading these in timeline order at all. But if you are, I'm sorry. And I just wasn't expecting Lilith to pop up in this book, and I wasn't really happy that she was there, but she was there, and she is there, so that's fine. And she ends up becoming like this big thing, and James actually ends up shooting her and like harming her, which is really weird because I don't think we ever heard about it. And even in Emma Book's review, which I just watched, she talked about how guns are never a big part. Guns are used one other time in the Shadowhunters, like at all, and that is a part of Queen of Air and Darkness. I'm not going to tell you why, but there's only one other thing that they're a part of. There's, guns are important, and so this one particular weapon that James can wield, I'm assuming it's because of his demon blood in him, because of his mom, because of Tessa and stuff. That's the reason why he can wield both the Shadowhunter rune and the gun. So probably nobody else can. I do have some theories though for the wicked powers because of this. Oh my god, because they're having, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm oh my god. Either way, back up, Jacob. And so he ends up shooting her in the final battle, which was so insane to me. I was like, oh my god. And so that was a big reveal. And then obviously Jesse being controlled by Video was also a really big reveal. And they end up actually, Jesse ends up dying, essentially. And Malcolm Faye ends up coming in and being like, hey, I think we can still bring him back to life. And Lucy had this whole plan out. And so they end up going off. I don't remember exactly where they end up running off to, but they do end up running off at the very, very end of the book. That's one of the reasons why they can't get on the train together. Malcolm Fade intend to engage in some kind of necromancy to raise young Jesse from the dead. I don't think I need... Oh, they don't know where she went off to. That's what it is. So that's something that's revealed at the very, very end of the book, is that they're running off together, her and Malcolm Fade, and she invites Grace with her. Grace does not end up going with her, because obviously she is, getting sent off to the Clade. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then she ends up bringing him back from the dead with her power that she has, which is to summon the dead. And so she ends up bringing his life back. I don't think he's fully resurrected yet for the whole process to be done, but they're very close to being done, and so I'm assuming that's going to be one of the first things we address in the next book, which I'm very excited about. I didn't know necromancy was going to be such a huge deal. I like writing about necromancy, so I'm not judging her. I'm just like, this is a lot of books that I've read so far, Cassandra, with a lot of necromancy involved, and a lot of them don't end very well. Like, I don't think any of them end well. I guess that's just the price you pay for bringing back someone from the dead. Is there anything else I need to talk about? I thought the reveal of the killer was nice. I wasn't really shocked. The epilogue is Tatiana and Video talking about how Jesse performed very well, which is a weird comment, but I didn't think anything of it. I'm just really hoping that it's just the case that he's commenting Jesse's body on being able to be used really well. And then, what is the other one? Oh, and then she ends up giving him the key to the iron, like, gates? The iron, you know, where you bury people. The Iron Citadel. The key to the Iron Tomb. She glanced behind her. It might have been her imagination, but she thought she could see small figures swarming out of the Citadel like troubled ants. Now take me from here, as you swore you would. As your service, my dark swan, he said, his laughter. So yeah. And I did want to mention before we jump into the small short story that is very in this book, which I thought was really medium personally, but we'll get into it in a second. I want to talk about BDO and also the Princes of Hell. So the Princes of Hell are brand new to the Shadowhunters. Obviously, they've talked about them before, but nothing to the extent. So if you personally want to know more information about the Princes of Hell, in particular into the Shadowhunters, I highly recommend you check out The Lost Book of the Light. You don't technically need to read both books. I recommend you read both books, but you don't need to. This takes place during, I want to say during the events of the Dark Artifice, or right before the Dark Artifice, because it does take place after Tales of Shadowhunter. There's major spoilers for it there, but I talk about it. The Princes of Hell is one of the most interesting things that I think Cassie has brought into the book so far, and I'm so excited to see how they're explored even further. And yeah, overall, I was very pleased with Chain of Iron. I much enjoyed it better than Chain of Gold, and I have a very strong feeling I'm going to love Chain of Gold my second time around, because I just absolutely adore these characters now. I did not do it the first time. So I think it was a great sequel. The tiny little thing is between what is the short story? It was a weird pairing. That was the thing I remembered. Oh, Magnus and Gem is the one. And I just didn't really care for it. It really is just like a big recap of the book and getting everybody back up to speed and kind of filling you in on lost details and stuff. Nothing super great here. Magnus sends a lot of this book away from the Shadowhunters, and so it really is just like a recap of why. And so some of it's interesting, but I don't think you need to read it to be able to enjoy the whole book. So overall, this is a 5 out of 5 for me personally. I love the Shadowhunters, as you guys do know on this channel. And yeah, I love this book as well. So there you go. I'll talk to you guys all soon for another beautiful video. If you guys enjoyed, if you guys did, please leave me a thumbs up. Don't comment down below. Hit the subscribe button. I'll see you all next time.